It's time to feel more. Feel faster, tenser, slicker, bolder, wilder, closer, deeper. Feel more and more and more. Feel it now with PS5.
Is that all you can do? Or is there more?
Believe me when I say that there is much more in store than meets the eye. But regardless, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, as well as all you merry Marvelites out there, to another very interesting video pertaining to the overall future of PlayStation and Marvel games. Or to be more specific, is the overall future of all the massive AAA Marvel games which are currently underneath the first-party banner of PlayStation Studios. And most notably, the main company that is currently working on all these massive Marvel titles with none other than Insomniac Games, where I'm sure that quite a lot of you are still trying to fully recuperate from the recent state of play that dropped from PlayStation, which, to put it bluntly, was a pretty below average presentation.
Being really old and almost dying a bunch doesn't count as research.
Almost dying is the best way to learn how not to die. Besides, it worked, didn't it?
What the hell is even that?
And granted, while we weren't provided with any brand new updates or even gameplay footage pertaining to any type of possible Marvel Spider-Man 2 DLC, or even any news relating to Marvel's Wolverine, those massive types of AAA updates are more than likely going to be saved for a much more fitting presentation with that of a PlayStation showcase. And despite us not receiving any type of official word coming from Sony Interactive Entertainment themselves as to when we can expect a PlayStation showcase to release, I not only fully believe that there is much more exciting projects to look forward to within PlayStation's production pipeline, but I also think that this recent state of play and even the upcoming Summer Game Fest might have unofficially provided us with some direct answers as to what the bigger and broader future is looking like for PlayStation and even Insomniac at large. And if I'm right about this, it could end up shaping an extremely exciting layout for PlayStation's fall plans later on this year in 2024 and even going further into the later years of 2025 and beyond. So if you're someone like me who's hyped to see even more massive AAA reveals from PlayStation and Marvel, then definitely be sure to whip that like button and subscribe to the channel for even more Marvel games videos down the line. So as I previously mentioned, is that the most recent PlayStation State of Play has in fact come and gone with very minimal amounts of critical praise coming from the community, despite only a couple games that were revealed during the event which I am personally very much looking forward to, like the Until Dawn remake as well as the brand new Astro Bot game. But obviously for all of us Marvel Spider-Man 2 fans out there, we did not receive a single update of any kind pertaining to any possible DLC for the game. But on the bright side is that we are now finally within the month of June. And next Friday on June 7th is where PlayStation will be able to possibly redeem themselves, considering that that marks the official beginning of Summer Game Fest, which PlayStation will be fully in attendance. However, considering that Summer Game Fest is run by the one and only Jeff Keighley himself, and given the previous track record as to what type of PlayStation games have been announced with Jeff Keighley running the show, I think it's a pretty safe bet that at least one of the PlayStation games that could be revealed during Summer Game Fest is without a doubt going to be the upcoming Hideo Kojima game of Death Stranding 2, where even though we are officially aware that DS2 will be releasing sometime next year in 2025, I still think it would make sense for Kojima to reveal some type of update trailer for the game relating to this event. But it is still pretty important to keep in mind that last year's Summer Game Fest is where we received the official release date for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So it is still a possibility that Insomniac Games, if they decided to do so, could possibly show up here during the Summer Game festivities. But I, for one, am personally looking at the much bigger picture at play here. And even though this might be seen as looking a bit too far in advance, I actually think that it lines up quite a bit, especially given the previous patterns that we have seen from PlayStation thus far. As I mentioned in my previous 101 video, is that given how PlayStation just had a State of Play within the month of May, and they will now be attending the Summer Game Fest in June, I think that the overall overall summer timeframe is now just a bit too packed for Sony to also hold a massive first-party showcase, which is why I think that PlayStation is seemingly going to follow a similar blueprint as to what we already saw all the way back in 2021, where in that year, we did receive a major first-party showcase within the month of September. And to elaborate upon that further is what exactly could we see during this potential showcase if it ends up happening. I think that this potential 2024 PlayStation showcase could end up being the biggest PlayStation showcase that we have ever seen up to this point ever since 2021. Now, to keep you all up to speed is that it was previously reported by massive gaming industry websites, which I actually did a previous 101 video about, is that PlayStation themselves did officially announce that they will not be releasing any type of major first-party games before the time frame of March 2025, which directly means that any type of massively exciting AAA first-party game that we're looking forward to, like Marvel's Wolverine, will not be releasing until some point after that specific time frame. But just because we're not expecting any type of massive AAA game to release until after that date arrives, that doesn't mean that we can't see any type of reveal for these games before then, which is why I think a PlayStation showcase in the fall would be absolutely perfect timing. But more importantly is that there's an even bigger factor lurking in the background as to why exactly Sony pretty much needs to have a PlayStation showcase in the fall if they actually want to end up having their company make even more of a profit by the time 2025 arrives. And that, my friends, relates to one item above everything else. That of which being the highly speculated, heavily rumored, and potentially not too desperately needed by the general public is the PlayStation 5 Pro. Where if you've been keeping up with any of the massive gaming news lately, is that it has been heavily teased from extremely reliable gaming industry insiders, is that Sony is in fact planning to fully launch a heavily inclined PlayStation 5 Pro model to possibly launch by the end of this year of 2024, which would undoubtedly end up making it one of the most highly requested and sought after items for people to obtain later on this year within the holiday season. And in terms of Sony releasing updated versions of their PlayStation console, this actually makes quite a lot of sense, because even though the base PS5 model is still rather recent considering it did drop all the way back in November of 2020, the timeline of updated console re-releases actually matches up with the previous generation of the PlayStation 4, where for the base PS4 console, that ended up releasing back in September of 2013. And only a little over 3 years later is where we got the official release of the PlayStation 4 Pro in November of 2016, which at the time, if you were a diehard console gamer like me, was pretty much the most definitive way to play your PlayStation 4 games on a Pro console, which was able to fully upscale your games to 4K, include better graphics, better fidelity, even more storage space, and so on. But this also brings up the question is, do we even need a PlayStation 5 Pro considering how high quality the base PS5 and even the brand new slimmer PS5 already are? And to be totally honest is that I'm not too big of a tech head when it comes to analyzing the overall specs that goes into running each of these individual consoles. But I do know that the PS4 Pro, in comparison to the base PS4, does run games in a much better quality. And the same notion obviously applies when transferring from a PlayStation 4 Pro to then upgrading to a PlayStation 5. So if a PS5 Pro was able to come out within some time later this year, which would not only be able to have a much bigger hard drive to store your games in, but also be able to run your games with even more high quality and even possibly higher frame rate, I could definitely see the benefit from upgrading to a base PS5 to a potential PS5 Pro. Not to mention that clear as day marketing potential is right there for Sony to grab onto if they are to release a PS5 Pro themed console later on within either 2025 or 2026 to pair directly with a game like Marvel's Wolverine, just like what we saw with Marvel's Spider-Man 2 getting bundled with a limited edition PS5. And on top of that, if you happen to be someone who doesn't even own a PlayStation 5 yet, waiting a little over half a year to then fully invest in what could possibly end up being the best version of the PS5 console that would be on the market would be an utterly fantastic business decision for the consumer to try and invest in. Or more accurately, is that I could see this potential PlayStation showcase being a type of dedicated PS5 Pro showcase, where on top of Sony possibly revealing a brand new PS5 Pro console, which would directly mirror exactly what we already have seen with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro shift, they could also end up debuting a bunch of upcoming PS5 exclusives and fully display them in a brand new light underneath the PS5 Pro banner, which would be able to completely unveil what the key differences are between a base PS5 and a potential PS5 Pro, which then would lead into even more hype surrounding these games to showcase them in their best possible way, running on the best hardware imaginable available from Sony, where in this case, we could end up receiving deep dives of brand new upcoming PS5 games that will run even better on the PS5 Pro, like that of Death Stranding 2, and even finally seeing gameplay footage of Marvel's Wolverine, or even seeing full-on game reveals which we don't even officially know about yet from first-party companies. Primarily in the case of games like Ghost of Tsushima 2, whatever Naughty Dog is working on, and of course, the next upcoming AAA title from Insomniac Games.
Thanks for coming, Pete. We want to show you something.
And on top of all this is that we are fully aware that what is pretty much going to end up being the biggest game in the entire world is supposedly still set to release later on in the fall of 2025. And if you've been living under a rock, I am directly referring to Grand Theft Auto 6, which, in case you don't know, is actually not going to be releasing on PC the day of its launch, but rather, it's only going to be releasing on main consoles with that of the PS5 and Xbox Series X. So what better way to fully invest in playing a massive game like Grand Theft Auto 6 on a console like the PS5 if you aren't going to play it on the best version of the PS5 possible with a potential PS5 Pro. This would not only skyrocket sales from consumers to try and invest in the best version of the PS5 to play a game like GTA 6 on day one, but it would also make the consumer even more invested in the overall lineup of games that PlayStation is currently working on. And if that means that they're going to run even bigger and better on a possible upgraded version of the PS5 with a Pro model, then I, for one, as a PS5 fan, will be all in. Especially if that means that I get to play through the Venom mission again in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 running on a possible PS5 Pro. That is going to be a dream come true. But to clarify is that absolutely none of this has been officially confirmed by anyone over at PlayStation, Marvel, Insomniac, or any of the other major first-party companies in question. This is merely coming from someone on the outside looking in, and seeing all the overall reveals and news drops that have come from PlayStation in the recent years. And especially seeing the pattern that they have followed, I for one think that there is a lot of potential for the later half of this year in 2024 to hold something really special for the future of the PlayStation brand. But as always, we're just gonna have to wait and see as to what exactly PlayStation has up their sleeves in the future. And until that time comes, everybody, that's the video I have for all you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think about my in-depth theory as to what the future of PlayStation, Marvel, Insomniac, and all these other first-party companies have in store for us gamers down the line? And if we are to end up seeing any type of PS5 Pro be revealed sometime later this year, would you personally be interested in buying one, even if you already have a PlayStation 5? Let me know what you think. Be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and for more Marvel games and PlayStation videos like this in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and stay awesome, PlayStation gamers. And until next time, peace out.